I stood before the meal I had spent hours preparing, completely speechless. Why would my brother-in-law's wife treat me so cruelly? I couldn't understand it. My name is Aurora, a 27-year-old office worker. My family consists of my husband, Chase, and our 3-year-old son. Chase is 4 years older than me, and our relationship began when I worked under him at the same company. After going out for drinks a few times, we grew close and started dating. A year later, we got married, bought a home, and began building our future together, enjoying our happy days as a family. But that happiness was overshadowed by a problem: Adriel's wife, Delilah. Adriel is Chase's older brother. When they were young, their father passed away in an accident, leaving their mother devastated. She had been a housewife, and the shock of losing her husband sent her into depression. Though she eventually recovered enough to take on a part-time job, she couldn't fully support the family. At the time, Adriel was in college, but he dropped out to work and provide for the family. He always insisted, Chase needs to go to college properly, and never complained as he worked tirelessly. Thanks to Adriel's sacrifices and some scholarships, Chase was able to complete his education and secure a stable job. At our wedding, both Adriel and their mother expressed their heartfelt gratitude. Overcome with emotion, Chase told Adriel, "If you weren't my brother, I wouldn't be where I am today." Adriel had always been kind and thoughtful toward us. However, after we moved into a house near his family, Delilah took every opportunity to remind me to be grateful to her husband. Adriel's job kept him busy with long hours and frequent business trips. During those times, Delilah would drop by our house unannounced, sometimes to eat, sometimes to bathe her children, and often to leave them with me while she went home to relax. She made unreasonable demands, too. "I don't feel like eating Western food today. Make something Japanese instead." Or, "My child wants hamburger steak tonight, so please cook it." Chase and I felt obligated to comply because we were indebted to Adriel. Once, when Chase gently pointed out that she was relying on me too much, Delilah snapped, "Because of Adriel, you got to go to college and land a prestigious job. Meanwhile, he only has a high school diploma and struggles in his career. If he had been able to finish college, he would have had better opportunities." She continued, "That's why you could buy a brand new house while we had to settle for a used one. The least you can do is repay him by doing these small favors for us." Whenever she said things like this, Chase would fall silent, unable to argue. He didn't want to bring up all the sacrifices Adriel had made for him, so he turned to me and pleaded, "I'm sorry, but can you put up with Delilah? We owe my brother so much." Reluctantly, I agreed, but Delilah's demands only grew worse. Her visits boiled down to two main reasons: she wanted to eat or use our bathroom, but recently, she started using me to impress her relatives. One day, she said, "I'm hosting dinner for my relatives and want to serve them a homemade meal." At first, I assumed she was inviting me to join the gathering, but once I finished cooking, she abruptly dismissed me. "All right, our guests will be here soon. You should go home now." Later, I overheard her relatives praising her, saying how talented she was for preparing such an elaborate meal. This wasn't a one-time thing. Every time Delilah had guests over, she had me cook, then sent me away. I chose the dishes, bought the ingredients with my own money, and prepared everything from scratch, while she didn't even lift a finger. On top of that, I was responsible for sending gifts on behalf of Adriel's family to his bosses and relatives as tokens of appreciation. I took care of everything, yet Delilah received all the praise. At family gatherings, people would tell me, "You should learn from Delilah, she's such a considerate and capable wife." I had lost count of how many times she boasted, "I prepare everything myself." Eventually, Chase and I told her that if we were to continue handling these gifts, she should at least cover the costs. After all, we also had our own relatives to send gifts to, and the expense was becoming too much. But Delilah refused to listen. "It's nothing compared to what Adriel sacrificed for you," she told Chase. She even scolded me, saying, "Adriel doesn't need to know about this. He'd be shocked to hear that you're making such a big deal out of a small gesture of gratitude. A good wife helps her husband repay his debts of kindness. Any woman who doesn't is the worst." Delilah constantly used Adriel's sacrifices as leverage to make demands. We were responsible for all seasonal letters, New Year's cards, and mid-year and year-end gifts. Lately, she had taken to repeating the phrase, "Chase is only successful because of Adriel," as if it were some kind of mantra. Then came the breaking point. Delilah asked me to prepare a full meal for a dinner party at her house, where she was hosting about 20 relatives. Normally, These family gatherings took place at the home of a senior relative, but this time, Delilah volunteered. Her relatives were excited, after all, they believed she was an excellent cook. But in reality, she expected me to do all the work. Chase was busy that day, so he couldn't help. When I asked about the cost, Delilah expected us to pay for everything. Feeding 20 people wasn't cheap, and I told her we should at least split the bill, but as usual, she refused. After everything Adriel went through, this is the least we can do, she insisted. When I suggested discussing it with Adriel, she erupted in anger. Don't you dare bother him, he's busy with work. How ungrateful can you be? I was at my limit, but with the dinner party approaching, I had no choice but to start preparing. Over several days, I carefully planned and cooked everything. The day finally arrived. I had been working since early morning and had just finished setting everything up when Delilah appeared. Everything is ready, I told her, exhausted but relieved. Your relatives can arrive anytime now. She scanned the dishes and suddenly scowled. What is this? The main dish is supposed to be eel rice. I blinked, but you never told me that. You should have known, this is so embarrassing. My relatives will think I don't even know how to prepare eel rice. Order some right away. I took a deep breath, looking at the fresh seafood I had carefully selected and prepared. This time, I wasn't going to back down. I stood my ground, refusing to back down. I didn't make anything embarrassing, I replied firmly. Delilah, however, was relentless. It has to be eel rice, she insisted, demanding I order it immediately, at my own expense. When I asked her to cover the cost, she flat out refused. That was the final straw. Enough, I snapped. Every time your relatives visit, you make me cook. You drop by our house unannounced, taking advantage of us. We handle all the mid-year and year-end gifts for your family. And for what? My frustration spilled out. I'm sick of it. She scoffed. After everything Adriel has done for you, you should be grateful. I took a deep breath and looked her in the eye. Delilah, I know about your affair. Her smirk faltered. You spend your days pawning off your responsibilities on me, so I got curious. I did some digging, and I know you've been sneaking around with someone you met on a dating app. For a second, she was silent, then, she laughed. Oh, so you found out, she said casually, but you don't have proof. It doesn't matter. You've been helping me all this time, it's like you're repaying a debt. That's what really matters. Her arrogance was staggering. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I silently packed up the food I had prepared. I'm done, I told her, gathering my belongings. I'm never coming back. As I walked out the door, she was still yelling about eel rice. I ignored her. Hours later, my phone buzzed with her repeated calls. I finally picked up. What the hell is going on? She screeched, sounding frantic. Something wrong? I asked innocently. Everything's ruined, she ranted. I threw away the food you made and ordered eel rice, just like I said. I even paid for it with my own money, but guess what? None of my relatives showed up. They suddenly canceled at the last minute. How do they know everything? I couldn't help but laugh. Unbeknownst to Delilah, I had already spoken to Adriel. I couldn't let her manipulation continue, so I told him everything, how she had been using us, lying to him, and even cheating. At first, he was skeptical. After all, Delilah had always played the role of the perfect wife around him and his relatives. She made sure he came home to a warm meal every night, meals she prepared using groceries stolen from my kitchen. She claimed she was the one sending gifts on behalf of their family, even though I was the one handling everything. She even lied, saying she often invited us over for dinner, but kept it a secret to avoid troubling us. Adriel had believed every word. But I had proof. I recorded Delilah's conversations whenever she visited, capturing her entitled demands and her repeated claims that we owed her. I also recorded our final confrontation, including her confession about the affair. And most importantly, I made sure Adriel and her relatives were listening. The moment the truth came out, Delilah's world crumbled. Her relatives, furious, bombarded her with calls. I can't believe Aurora was the one handling all the gifts. You used Adriel's sacrifices as an excuse to manipulate people. And on top of that, you cheated? One by one, they cut ties with her. Delilah tried to worm her way out of it, but the evidence was undeniable. That night, Adriel came home early. He faced Delilah with a look of deep disappointment. How could you treat Chase and Aurora like this while I wasn't around? His voice was low, controlled. And you had an affair? Delilah broke down, sobbing. I was jealous, she admitted. I hated that Aurora was younger, that she and Chase had a better house than us. I wanted to make them owe us, and when Chase thanked you at the wedding, I realized I could use that against them. As for the affair, I was lonely. You're always busy with work. I wanted attention. Her excuses disgusted me, but more than anything, I felt sorry for Adriel. I never helped Chase expecting him to repay me, he said, shaking his head. He's my brother. I wanted him to have a good life, and I'm proud of what he's achieved. If my salary isn't enough for you, that's my failure, not his. Then we learned the worst part. Delilah had been leaving her kids alone while sneaking off to meet her lover. Adriel made his decision. He filed for divorce and took full custody of the children. Delilah, desperate to avoid a court battle, accepted a lower alimony in exchange for a clean break. But karma had more in store for her. Her lover's wife found out about the affair and demanded compensation. Now, Delilah was drowning in debt, working multiple part-time jobs to pay alimony and child support. Months later, when Adriel stopped by with his kids, I caught a glimpse of her from a distance. She looked exhausted and disheveled. Adriel, always the good man, apologized to us. He even offered to pay for the meals Delilah had taken from our home and the gifts we had covered over the years. But Chase and I refused. We just wanted to put it all behind us. I told Adriel I felt guilty, like I had brought shame to his family. He shook his head. If anything, I was the one who failed, because I never noticed what she was doing. Now, he's balancing work and raising his kids. We help when we can, and he joins us for dinner sometimes. As for Delilah, she's out of our lives. Looking back, I realize that if she hadn't constantly played the "you owe Adriel" card, maybe we could have had a normal relationship. But some people will always try to make you feel indebted to them, even when you don't owe them a thing. Chase and I laugh about it now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned.